Spiders are pretty much in every area of the world except for Antarctica, and they are an important part of all of our ecosystems. They feed on a lot of pest insects, especially in cropland areas, so they are beneficial to a lot of our systems. Spiders are generalist predators, so they feed on a whole variety of pests. So they will feed on anything from aphids to any soft-body pest in cropping systems. So our wheat and barley and alfalfa, so they're important components of a lot of our major crop systems. If you do have a fear of spiders, I think it's important to have your spider identified, either by sending it to the Scudder lab with a picture or send a sample in. And then knowing a little bit more about your spider will help you kind of diminish your fear, and then know that we have very few harmful spiders here in Montana. So just have the black widow, that's the only spider that is of medical importance and that could be potentially harmful to a human. So knowing what spider you have might really help you reduce your fear, and you might actually find it interesting to learn a little bit more about that spider. Spider bites are usually the go-to for a lot of medical diagnoses, and they are often blamed for a lot of conditions that are not, where spiders aren't responsible. A lot of times what we have here when things are misdiagnosed, especially in the West, it's usually MRSA. And so for that, if you go home with the wrong antibiotic, then that infection could get worse, and it could potentially turn septic and could be fatal. You can minimize the risk of bites by being careful where a lot of spiders are hiding, and a lot of the spiders, especially like the black widow, might be in garages and crawl spaces and in areas that you don't tend to frequent. Look in your shoes and clothing if you've got stuff in the garage that you don't attend to very often. They like those kind of dark, kind of moist areas, and those are areas where you could potentially get bites. If you do think you have a bite in general, just make sure that you attend to that wound by washing it thoroughly. If it is possibly a spider bite, then that will heal within 24 to 48 hours. If that wound is not healing, make sure that you go to a medical doctor to have that checked out, because if it's a wound that's not healing, then it requires medical attention. If you decide to leave the spider in the house, then they're actually doing a good service, because they're catching a lot of the insects that might be in the house. Everybody has some insects, even though they might not know it. So they are trying to set up webs in areas where they find food, so they're doing a valuable service there. The other thing to realize when you have a web spider or in the home, it's unlikely to move very far from that area. So if you see a spider up in the corner in the web, it's unlikely that it's going to be in your bed a few hours later. And I think that's important to know, because I think that's the biggest fear. You see it there and you don't know what it's going to be doing later, but it's unlikely to travel that far.